A child prodigy who lived up to all the expectations. His playing style is not for the faint-hearted, and he's got a personality to match. No matter what your opinion of him, a tournament just doesn't feel complete without the thrills his games deliver. I'm very happy to have with me 4 times US champion, world number 7, Hikaru Nakamura.
It's good to be here again.
Again, yes, indeed, Hikaru. Now, you won the Tradewise Gibraltar Chess Festival in 2015 and 2016. You seem to really like it here.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general it's just a very nice atmosphere. There are a lot of different players across all different levels. The conditions are quite nice, and it's January after all, so in most places it is winter. And while times can get cold and windy, I mean, for the most part the weather's pretty mild here, so it's always a pleasure being here. It's very important because it is the first tournament of the year, so it's good to try and get off on to the right start. So. For me, things seem to work out here, but of course, things can always change in a heartbeat, so we'll see if it continues.
Absolutely, and you seem to enjoy open tournaments a lot, in fact, and a lot of your colleagues and players out of the top 10 seem to struggle with it. So what do you think works for you?
I think in general, I'm perhaps a bit more creative than some of the other top players, and I think when you're playing against people who are not all in the top 10, you get a lot more games where you have different openings, a lot of people who have different styles, and I think it just tends to help and fit the way that I play. So overall, I think it's definitely nice. I enjoy playing people who play various openings, not all the same Berlins or things like that. So yeah, it just seems to work for me.
And it also seems like the whole US chess education seems to help, where you've got this attitude that you've got to win at all costs and draws are not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think that helps somewhat, but I think in the past it helped me more than it does now. I mean, because when you play at the top level quite a bit, you also have to be a little bit more pragmatic and practical and not take as many chances. So it's a mix of both worlds. But yeah, certainly I think growing up in the US, it did help, because there are moments when kind of you are a little bit less objective, and I think in open tournaments that's definitely a strength.
Right, in fact, just looking at your style of play, you do seem very influenced by Kasparov. There's this certain sense of ability to take risks and fearlessness.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least growing up, the openings I played the Sicilian Idol, for example, which he was one of the big pioneers of it, and the King's Indian as well, which of course he played quite a bit back in the old days. So. Yeah, I mean, the style-wise, I think I'm probably quite similar to him, but there are other players too that I'm a big fan of, and I do like Kramnik's games, for example, and I do tend to play some positional chess as well at times. So it's just a big mix, and I think in this day and age, you have to be pretty versatile and play all different styles.
One can feel that there have been certain changes, and you seem to be a lot more stable from the aggressive, explosive nature of play that you had before. It seems to be a lot more stabilized. So is that something? Is that a journey that you've been working on? Do you feel it?
I mean, I think that's naturally what happens as you become stronger and you play against the best players in the world. I mean, it's always a learning curve. So when you start out, it depends what you can get away with, what you can't get away with, and kind of learning, figuring out how to understand what works and what doesn't. And when you play against the best players in the world, I mean, you can try certain things, but you have to be much more practical. And I think it's a natural evolution. It's how things evolve for all the top players, I think.
And it seems to be working well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the top 10 for quite a while now. Obviously, I hope to get back to the candidates tournament, maybe compete for the World Championship. So there are a lot of things still that I would like to accomplish. But again, you take it one tournament at a time. And right now, I'm here in Gibraltar, so hopefully I can do well and maybe win this tournament for a 3rd time in a row.
You've been in the top 10 for a really long time. You're one of the world's best players. And everybody who's at that level, it almost seems like their ultimate goal is to play the World Championship. How important is that as a personal goal for you? Is that your ultimate motivation in chess as well?
I think at this point, yeah, I would say it has to be, simply because I've accomplished so many other things. I mean, I was number 2 at one point in the world for a couple of months. I won the U.S. Championship. I've won pretty much all the other titles that you can for the most part. So certainly, I think it would be the crowning achievement to get there to play a match. Obviously, winning, who knows, but just to get there would be something. So it is the ultimate goal. But again, even if I don't make it, it doesn't really affect me that much. There are, after all, there are things in life.
Right, and what are these other things that are very important to you?
Well, we'll see. But I'm just saying that, going forward beyond chess, I think there are other things as well that I've interest in, things that I would perhaps like to pursue. So yeah, I'll worry about those things in due time. But for the moment, my focus is still on chess.
Right, and you're also in a really good place in your personal life. So being happy also helps just maintaining your level. I mean, that's an important part as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you obviously have to be positive. I think positivity is always a good thing, no matter what. No matter what it comes to, whether it's a job, whether it's personal things, or or chess. I think in general you have to be positive and happy. So certainly it's helped me, and I think that's probably why I've been so stable the last couple of years. But again, I do want to achieve more, so perhaps it's not a good thing at the same time.
No, I'm sure it's very encouraging. But tell us, what is the good and the not so good of dating a chess player?
Okay. I mean, I think in general, the difficult part is that people travel so much. I mean, when you're traveling all the time, it's very hard to have a good personal life, because most people in the world are not traveling all the time. That's just not the nature of people's work or their lives. So certainly traveling a lot makes it difficult, and I think that's the number one thing. Secondly, I think financial stability. A lot of players who are not at the very top tend to. They do okay, but it's not a comfortable life. You do struggle along the way, so I think that certainly makes it quite difficult. So those are the two main things that make it difficult. I mean, the good things obviously are that you do get to travel. I mean, for a lot of people, you don't have the opportunity to see the world. You don't have the opportunity to see different cultures, see people who are different from yourself. So I think traveling and getting to see the world is definitely the top benefit to being with a chess player.
When someone studies your game, you almost get a feeling that you want to play more of a practical choice, like your moves are based on something that would pose the maximum trouble to your opponent, rather than just being preoccupied with finding the truth in the position.
I do think the goal at the end of the day is to win. It is a game. You do have to win. I don't really believe in the truth or any of that sort of stuff, because I think, I mean, in any position for the most part, there are multiple moves that are just as good. And I think if you're talking about the truth, the best move is always going to lead to a draw. So, yeah, I just try to be practical, and the goal is to win. So even if it's not, correct or something along those lines, it doesn't really matter that much to me, because there always are other ways of looking at the situation, other solutions. It's not a math formula where you have one solution.
Right, so would you say it's not really about the correct move, but more about the circumstances that sort of guide you to a good move? The opponent you're playing, his style of play, maybe the time situation on the board?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think time for sure plays a big role. When opponents are low on time, you're a player, whether it's me, whether it's another top player, we're much more likely to do something that perhaps is not the most correct move, because your opponent has less time, and perhaps if you play something different, they're more likely to go wrong. So I think it's also about the percentages and the probabilities of playing something where your opponent has more opportunity to make a mistake.
Right, and talking about less time, now you're one of the world's best players when it comes to speed chess, whether it's bullet, blitz, or rapid. What skills would you attribute to that?
I think it's just playing a lot of quick chess when I was younger, and also, if you look at the chess in Europe or the U.S., in the U.S. a lot more of it is centered around close to rapid, game 30, for example, which is what I grew up playing a lot of in New York City. And that's very quick. That's quicker than in Europe, where a lot of people grow up playing more classical, slow chess. So I think that played a big role. I mean, I think it's just the whole thing of growing up in the U.S., where things are quicker.
Okay, Karan, now tell me one thing. You've got this really big plus score against Avishai Anand, who is an absolute legend, one of the greatest players. But then at the same time, you have a bad score against a Magnus. So what's the psychology of it? I mean, why is it that chess players seem to do really well against somebody, and then something goes wrong when you're playing someone else?
I mean, I think it's all psychological. I don't think there's any other explanation, really. Because there isn't really. You can't say that, for example, I mean, obviously Magnus is a better player than Vishy, but you can't say that he's better by that degree to the point that I should,
Yes.
be scoring +8 against Vishy and be like -8 or something against Magnus. So I think it's all psychological, and really there are a lot of cases where it's like that make no sense. I mean, I think if you look at Vishy, before all of us young players started growing up, I think he had pretty much a plus score against every single player except for Kasparov, and against Kasparov he had some terrible score as well. So it's all relative, but I think it is psychological at the end of the day, and there's really no other explanation.
And is that a psychological barrier that one can break?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I beat Magnus last year in Bilbao for the first time after losing something like 10 games. So.
And some of them were completely winning?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, I think it is psychological. So
Right.
obviously it's possible to break it. I think all it takes really is like one good game, and then anything can change.
Last year, you also had a great team performance in Baku. How does that work when, because it was the first time that you were playing with Wesley and with Fabiano in the team, you guys have always played against each other. So how does the dynamic work when you're kind of rooting for each other?
Well, I don't know if we were rooting for each other. I mean, we're still obviously rivals. But I think for the most part there wasn't any drama, and I think that actually is a lot more important, because with a lot of teams where you have top players, you tend to have certain dynamics where certain people want to win, others are rooting against the other players, and that's why certain countries, I mean, like Azerbaijan as an example, seem not to perform as well as you would think that they could. So. I mean, I think in general it's just that we had a pretty reasonable dynamic. There was no drama, and I think where we just all happen to be that good that really nothing's gonna. I mean, we're just that talented that nothing really is gonna stop us unless there's drama or stuff like that.
Now you've got, like we said, you've got Fabiano and you've got Wesley, and Fabiano's playing here as well. Is that like an extra motivation that now they're part of the same federation and you had this domination, but now suddenly you have to kind of fight for it?
I mean, one of the best things I think about chess, unlike so many other sports or games, is that for the most part you control your own destiny. You can control what happens, and so I mean, obviously they're both fantastic players. But if I play well, I have no doubt that I can get up there too. So so we'll see what happens. But obviously for right now, I just have to focus on playing well, and if I play well, good things will happen.
They will. And my last question, Hikaru, now, everybody obviously associates you with a very aggressive style of play and full of tactics and combination. What for you do you personally believe is your strength, and is that the kind of chess that you love as well?
I mean, I do love playing aggressive chess. I don't think that's completely my style anymore, unlike in the past. But still, I do like playing games where they're going to be decisive results, because for me, I do tend to view chess as being closer to a sport. And I think one of the big issues with chess is that you have a lot of draws. And I mean, if I could win or lose every game, I would much prefer that to draws. But of course, the rules are what they are.
Right, and as spectators, we absolutely love that. So all the best for this tournament and the whole of the year. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.